What is up, fellas? We got a huge show for you tonight. We're going to be talking that injury to Andy Dalton that took him out of the playoffs. We're going to be talking Delvar's destiny, and there's a huge franchise quarterback in the NBL right now, and he's talking retirement. But first, the 2-minute drill with Lipp, so stay tuned. What is up, guys? It's the Commissioner's Corner podcast, Friday, October 21st. We're in Week 17 in the NBL in Season 19. I'm your host, Bomber, alongside my co-host, Lipp. And guess what time it is? I feel like I should say it kind of special. It's time for the 2-minute drill. That's 5 questions, 2 minutes rapid fire with Lipp. Lipp, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, we're going to begin right now. On the NBL Blitz, Spencer Murray said Vincent Jackson is probably looking to go to a team like the Lions, the Rams, or the Seahawks. And out of those 3 teams, where do you see Vincent Jackson going?
Well, the Lions don't need them 2 1,000-yard receivers. The Seahawks really love to run the ball. The Rams really need somebody for Jared Goff to throw the ball to, so he's going to go to the LA Rams.
All right, so we know McCoy and Shady McCoy might be on the outs in Buffalo. They brought in Tevin Coleman. You think LeSean McCoy is going to be cut?
Yeah, I definitely see them cutting him. He's making a lot of money. They want to use that money to be able to build their defense. They've got Coleman. They don't need McCoy anymore. I see him going to a tough team, someone like Baltimore, who kind of has a bunch of running backs that needs somebody big time to fill in for that.
The Detroit Lions finished 16-0 this year. That's the perfect season, but the NBL hasn't had a true perfect season, which takes them all the way to the Super Bowl. Is this the chance what are the chances that they could get that done this year?
I would say there's no chance, but it's the Lions. They've been there a lot. It's something that is really tough to do, but I actually think that this team can do it.
All right, so we got the MVP vote. Like, we got to leak the list. We got Adrian Peterson, Antonio Brown, Matthew Stafford, Khalil Mack, Ezekiel Elliott. Out of those 5 on the list, who got snubbed?
Those are a lot of great names, high-powered players, but one guy, Melvin Gordon, helped those Chargers get into the playoffs. Over 1,000 yards, 15 touchdowns. He did not get the credit he deserves.
We got 15 seconds left. Now, this is going to be an easy one. The NBL Rookie of the Year, who should get it?
Absolutely, Derrick Henry. The dude has just been running through teams, 1,400 yards, 17 touchdowns. It's got to be Derrick Henry.
6, 5, and 5 seconds to spare. Any shout-out to anything going on in the NBL right now?
Hey, just good luck to Sonny and his Andy Dalton-less Bengals.
And we'll get into that later on in the show. And that's been the 2-minute drill with Lipp. He got it done pretty easy this week, guys. Leave us a comment and let me know what you thought about the segment. Are you looking for affordable graphic design? Well, the Madden Bomber League has you covered. Our sponsor at web3ks.com can do anything you want. They always go, Bomber, where'd you get those intros? Web3ks.com. Bomber, where'd you get them graphics? Web3ks.com. So you guys need to check it out. If you run a CFM, if you got a Twitter account, if you got a YouTube account, and you're looking for some nice, clean, affordable graphics, go to web3ks.com and he will fulfill all your graphics needs. So Week 15, Andy Dalton's taking on the rival Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Bengals are hanging in there looking good. Then end of the second half, boom, he goes down. Reports come out later that he's broken his collarbone, and he's going to miss the whole season. So this is huge news for the Cincinnati Bengals and their fan base. The Bengals finished 11-5. McCarron finished out the season, so he has roughly 2.5 games under his belt, 2 full starts thus far. Lipp, what are you thinking as far as Bengals going to this playoff push? How much is this going to affect them, losing a starter like Andy Dalton, who had 103 QBR? He passed the ball fairly well this year at 65% completions, 3,412 yards, 24 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. That's his baseline stat line right there. I mean, he was pretty much the heart of this offense and really helped them go.
Well, I think with this team, they have defenders, but they don't have a defense. And what this team was forced to do with that situation was put up a lot of points. their team, their winning is really based off scoring a lot of points. They're not going to win games where it's tight. The defense has to come up big. It's tough for that defense to pull out wins. They have a shot in the playoffs because McCarron hasn't looked awful. He's put some drives together and hasn't looked bad as he's gotten more time. So there's a chance.
Let's touch on McCarron's stats real quick, comparable to Dalton, because I'm on the opposite side of this. You're saying they need to put up points. Losing Dalton's going to kill them. I look at McCarron in 2.5 starts. I see 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 63% completion percentage, compared to 65 for Andy Dalton, so he's right there. His QBR is 108.7 versus 103.1 for Andy Dalton. Obviously a smaller sample size, but I'm seeing if they just adapt their offense just a little bit, bring them in a little bit, let Gio Bernard be more of a pass threat like he's been, hit the checkdowns, and run the ball through Jeremy Hill. I think they can kind of resemble somewhat of the team that they were, maybe minus, give or take, a touchdown or two a game. It's really going to come down to their defense. Like you said, their defense has been so weak.
I would think so, but the issue is the defense is so weak that they're going to be letting up points, and that strategy would work over the course of a season. You play some weaker teams, you play the better teams, and you might be able to slide in with that strategy. But this team's it's all big offense, and I don't know if they can reel that back in and go about it completely different now on such short notice.
But you said weaker teams, and I mean, I think we're both in agreement that the AFC is fairly weak. I mean, would you agree to that at this point? Can we say that first round, the wild card round, isn't going to be the strongest teams in the NBL in the wild card round in the AFC?
That is why I do believe there is still a chance. If this was a very strong playoff pack, I would say absolutely not, but I do think that there are some opportunities. If certain things fall certain ways, that McCarron could lead them to a playoff win, but I just think that there's teams in the playoffs that are going to be able to put up more points than McCarron. If Dalton was there, I'd say no question that they would have a first round win. Yeah. It's just I'm very unsure about what McCarron's going to do against a playoff team.
Yeah, so week 17, we still have a couple games left to be played. The Daltonless Bengals, okay, so they got possibly the Texans, right? They got possibly the Jaguars they could play, and then the Jets on a crazy possibly could happen. Out of those three teams, if you're the Daltonless Bengals starting A.J. McCarron, where do you want to go? Who do you want?
Well, you don't want the Texans, because I do believe in week 16 they took a 10-17 loss to the Texans. Definitely. So I definitely don't want to go there if I'm the Bengals. I guess the only other option is the Jaguars, but this team's not a joke. They have a lot of good players, and that's a team where you're going to have to score some points. They've got a good defense. Their offense can put it together, and I don't think that they win that game easy. I don't think at all. I think it's going to be a tough one. But like I said, I absolutely do not want to go to play the Texans.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think the Jets also have a really strong defense, and their offensive attack is they're pesky, man. They can put up some points, and they're very unconventional in the way that they play. Final thoughts on A.J. McCarron's Week 17, and I know Cincinnati fans in Ohio, they're screaming, oh, McCarron's that guy, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions versus a Baltimore team that possibly could have been, throwing in the towel at this point. Who knows? Well, they were playing for pride, obviously. What were your thoughts on that game with A.J. McCarron Week 17 when he put up those 5 touchdowns, 0 interception game?
I think that's taking advantage of a defense that blitzes a lot. But my final thought here on the McCarron situation is that there's always so much talk about if the Bengals wanted to, and that's exactly how it's worded. If they wanted to, they could get a high-value draft pick for McCarron. And if you truly believe that, then this is the time that we're going to see if that's true or not. I don't believe it is, but some people do, and we're about to see it all play out here.
Yeah, that's definitely some interesting storylines moving on down the way in the NBL. And that's pretty much our story on Andy Dalton right now, so we'll keep in the loop on that. I believe he has no chance of returning this playoff season, and I believe the Bengals will win one in the wild card round, but then they'll face the Steelers or the Raiders, and that will eventually end their season. So we'll stay tuned and we'll keep y'all updated on that. And you can also check out NBL Blitz, probably be touching on what happened with the Cincinnati Bengals in the playoffs in the upcoming weeks. So as Andy Dalton goes down, new kind of storyline breaks out. A veteran, a 37-year-old franchise quarterback is contemplating retirement at that time, and that is Drew Brees. The Saints win 6-10 this year. He's got $22.1 million left on his contract for next year. He threw for 25 touchdowns, 25 interceptions, 63% completion percentage, and 3,929 yards, third highest in the NBL. Lipp, how do you respond to these rumors going around in New Orleans saying that Drew Brees is probably going to hang it up after this year?
Well, Drew Brees is obviously one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, and it's a very tough decision because you have a guy that you've got a lot going for you. He did a lot for you. Very good relationship there. But the thing is, there comes a time where you have to move on, and if Brees wants to retire, then this is a pretty good time to do it. As far as the Saints, it puts him in a pretty tough decision if he doesn't retire because they're paying him a lot of money, and there's not really a whole lot of production. Is it worth another year of this kind of production? Your defense is 25th. You were 6-10 this year. I think that it could be one of those situations where you either try to force him to retire, or you take the option where you don't take any cap penalty and you just cut him and move on from Drew Brees.
Yeah, they're far removed from the Super Bowl IV that they won in the NBL Season 4 Super Bowl champion team. Their defense is so bad, being 25th ranked. I'm just like, if I'm Drew Brees, I'm sitting back and I'm looking and I'm thinking, how close are we to winning this division? And it just seems like Atlanta's just so far ahead of them, personnel-wise and skill-wise on both sides of the ball, that it's like that $22.1 million really needs to go to improving the defense in the free agency if they're going to draft a replacement for Drew Brees in the draft. Now, if Drew Brees stays, they don't have the money, right? And then they go into the draft, and what do? How many pieces do they need on defense? More than what this draft is going to be able to provide them.
Yeah, I think another thing about this, 6-10, 7 wins, 8 wins, somewhere in that range, you're kind of in the middle of the draft. And I think Drew Brees is hurting you by keeping you in the middle of the draft. You can get good players there, but you're not going to get the absolute stud that everybody goes after. If you took a year, didn't have a quarterback, get a top 3 pick, you take that absolute stud, you take that star quarterback, the next guy, that can really change things and make it a quicker process. Keeping Drew Brees around right now, you're hanging in that middle somewhere, and it's tough with that situation.
Yeah, so I think Drew Brees has had a great career, and it's probably time to hang it up as well. I know we're kind of in agreement with this because it's really the defense, man. If you can't stop Matt Ryan, you can't beat the Falcons. And if you can't stop them run or pass, you're 25th in the league on defense. It just really, with that $22.1 million that he's making, it just really hand ties them from being able to go out and get the personnel that they need. Brandon Cooks had a great season this year. He caught 61 catches, 1,148 yards, 7 touchdowns in his second season. Sophomore season, no sophomore slump from this guy. This guy's going to be a perennial Pro Bowler, and I think it's time for Drew Brees to step away and let that next guy develop his chemistry with him, because the longer he stays, the more he's going to have to get used to that next guy coming in, and it's really just going to pull the team back if he stays. So I think it's best for them. And if Drew Brees doesn't want to retire, I don't know if we touched on this already, but they could cut him. It's a zero. It's going to cost them zero on cap penalty to cut him, and they'll free up $22.1 million.
Yeah, it's a tough place to try and cut that guy. I know it's Drew Brees, but for the good of the franchise, this might be a move that they will have to make. And Drew Brees, is he gonna walk away if he gets cut? Do you think he would go and play for somebody else?
I know there's not many. That's a good question. I'm kind of struck by that question. I didn't expect that. If I was Drew Brees and I didn't want to retire, and the Saints told me, well, we're going to have to release you then, I'd probably retire to save face that way, but does Drew Brees want another NBL championship? Now, let's look at the teams out there with the quarterback injuries that go down, as we just talked about Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have a guy like Drew Brees sitting there to come in and step up. Now, would he be willing to accept that role is my question back to you as a Florida team, because I don't know if there's a team out there right now that's in contention that's just a quarterback away. Maybe the Texans? I mean, that's a team I could see Drew Brees going on at 30. He'd be 38 years old next year. They could pay him $10 to $12 million, $15 million.
I think the Texans would be
a beautiful fit.
That would be a great team for him to go to, but then you're paying at $10 million for Drew Brees. You're now paying somewhere around $30 million for two quarterbacks with Osweiler there. But I do think a play that could work. I do think there's not a lot of people taking up money at this one team. A veteran owner, and they have pieces. I'm not sure that they're a quarterback away from a Super Bowl, but they might be a quarterback away from playoffs. Would be the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh yeah.
I think that could be a team, and good ownership there, obviously. I think that Drew Brees could step in there and take that position and maybe put them in a playoff position. But for your other question, no, I absolutely do not ever see Drew Brees taking a backup role anywhere. One, I don't think he wants to spend his last year sitting, and two, I don't think that he's going to want way too much money to just sit somewhere.
And organically, this turns into from we hear Drew Brees might retire to now, well, what if they cut him? He's got zero on the cap penalty. Does he want to go play somewhere else? And now I'm starting to think, I'm thinking, where else could he play? But I'm thinking, man, New York Jets, if he wanted to play one more year? I mean, they played quarterback, they were swapping in and out Geno, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and the owner, Delvar, hasn't really been happy with either of them. He hasn't come out and blatantly said it, but you can just tell by the way that they're moving that he's not particularly happy with his quarterback play. You bring in a guy like Drew Brees, throwing to Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker, Robbie Anderson, that young stud they got coming up. I mean, that could be a missing piece on offense for them, that on a team that's aging. They could all have that same mentality. We want to get one and get out.
Yeah, that is a great fit, because your quarterbacks now are not making that much money. We all know about the Ryan Fitzpatrick situation. You've got younger guys behind him. Let Fitzpatrick walk, bring in Brees. Like you said, you've got all those older guys that all want the same thing. They all just want one shot at a championship, and I think Drew Brees is a great piece to go after that.
Yeah, I mean, you would look at it. Drew Brees for almost 4,000 yards last season. Fitzpatrick threw for this season. Fitzpatrick threw for nearly 1,800. Geno Smith threw for 1,700. That puts him about 3,500 combined. But the completion percentage way down, 58-57%. Leader like Drew Brees comes in there, man, could change this New York, and he could be Namath of the New York Jets again, right? He could bring them back to relevancy, even though we're going to touch on that later. Delvar seems to be doing that on his own. He could really make them legitimate Super Bowl contenders in the NBL, not playoff contenders and division winners, Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
With that being said, man, this went from a Drew Brees possible retirement conversation to now we're saying he should sign with the Jets if he gets cut. That's how organic it is right now, guys. We'll follow along in this story, and we'll pick this up as we go, man. The free agency's right around the corner. Anything can happen. I just see Drew Brees sitting there, $22.1 million. If he doesn't want to retire, the Saints can always pull the trigger. I mean, they have a young core team, and they need that money. They need more than just one position to fill to be competitive in that division. And they could say, hey, our time with Drew Brees is up, and we might make this move. And we'll continue to follow that as we go forth in this offseason. Looking for Madden Bomber League history, content, and news? Go to 365.maddenbomberleague.com. Don't forget to give us a follow on Twitter @BomberLeague, and hit that like button and that subscribe on our NBL Network YouTube channel, and support one of the fastest growing leagues in the Madden community. All right, third segment of the show. We're going to be looking at the standings. This is from week 16. We're currently in week 17, so I'm going to be giving y'all the updated win-loss record, because a lot has changed since then. We're going to start with the AFC. We're going to announce the division winners, or at least what we think they are going to be right now, and give a little shout-out to those teams. Right now in the AFC East, we got the New York Jets, led by the owner Delvar, currently sitting at 10-6. I know it says 9-6 on the screen, but they won their final game against the Patriots, which potentially knocked the Patriots out of the contention. Lipp, were you surprised by the Jets winning this division?
I was a little bit, but I think whatever teams were given out, and I thought that Justin might have had the early advantage there, just from experience of the past. But then as the season went on, the Patriots looked good and the Jets looked good, but then the Bills and the Dolphins looked, they definitely looked like they were behind the other teams. So I thought that the Patriots might be able to squeak it out, but it's definitely good that the Jets did. They have a lot of good players. Their team's pretty well put together. It's just the quarterback play is a question to see how far they'll go in the playoffs.
Yeah, I thought the Patriots had the better team to start the season. Obviously, I thought the Bills were going to win it due to experience for Justin, like you said. But the Bills gave up too much on defense. 368 points given up this season. It's too much. Too many points allowed, and everybody else was around 270, 280. As average, he was nearly 100 points more than that. That's just too much for that offense to try to make up. On to the AFC North, third time in a row, Lipp wins the division. He's currently sitting at 14-2. The Bengals right underneath him at 11-5, as we talked about early with the Andy Dalton injury. Followed by the Ravens at 5-11. The Browns finished at 2-14. Not much surprise in this division. Really don't want you commenting about your own team, but I can say this: you held opponents to a low. You only allowed 287 points. And he scored 434, both leaders in that division, and that's why you won the division. You scored more than your opponent, and you allowed the least amount of points of anyone in your division. That's obviously the recipe for winning a division. On to the AFC South, and this is where it gets tricky. Both teams sit at 9-7 this week. That's right. Right now, y'all are looking at it and seeing 8-7, 8-7 for Texans Jaguars. Both of them won their game, and Lipp has a theory he wants to share with the league. Lipp, tell him who's going to win this division. And this is all pending Madden's tiebreaker.
Well, we all know how tiebreakers should go, and then we all have our experiences of how Madden tiebreakers do go. However, I have gone through and looked at the schedules for the Texans and the Jaguars. It looks like, actually it is, within their division they won and lost the same amount of games against the same exact opponents. So their division record and their record in the division is the same by team. As far as conference, the conference record is the same. Heads up, they split, even though heads up is before that.
Wait, so this team tied literally like in four different things.
Everything. I'm talking everything. And then it gets even closer.
Okay.
You go through and you look at their common games, which is, what breaks the ties at this point. And almost every single one of their common games was the same, except for just 3 of them. I believe that the Jaguars took the games against the Chiefs and the Bears, while the Texans only took the game against the Chargers. So I think out of all of this, it's going to come down to the common games, and it's going to give it to the Jaguars for winning 2 more common games than the Texans.
Very interesting. Now, this is my division pick of the AFC that's going to be one of the most competitive. I'm talking 4 down. This is my 4 down division in the AFC. I think Colts, Texans, Jaguars, and Titans are going to be battling it out every season. Titans with Wildcats is obviously going to get better. He had some owner suspension issues at the beginning of the year that caused his record to look so poor. And Pricey actually figured it out towards the end of the year and he beat some big teams. He even came up with a win against the Steelers, who only had 2 losses this year. So I expect this AFC South to be one of the toughest divisions moving forward. On to the AFC West, and that's got the Raiders. I probably did that poorly, so you can probably just forget about that. But the Raiders tied with the Chargers. They're both currently 10-6 right now, and that's because the Raiders took a loss in Week 17 against the Broncos, who's got a new owner, Porter, who looks to be really good. Another division that, man, is going to be really tight, but the Raiders obviously clinched this division, won this one. They look like they're going to be the number 2 seed in the AFC. Chargers going to be that wild card spot at 10-6, and the Broncos failed to make the playoffs at 9-7, I believe.
Yeah, I think that the Broncos are out. They might have the longest shot out of all of the teams to make it, but you got to give it to the Raiders. They started out rough, brought it all together. They're playing solid football.
No, the Broncos have zero chance. They've lost 7 games, which completely puts them out because the Bengals and the Chargers, with 6 losses, are going to be the wild cards.
The Chargers did win their game, I believe, last night against the Chiefs, and that would put them. I believe that the Bengals and the Chargers are the final 2 wild card teams.
Yeah, and that division looks to be tough, man. Can the Raiders hold on? Are the Chargers going to come back? Prince, a really good owner. I expect him to fight back next year and fight for that division, along with the Broncos with Porter. And you have a new owner with the Chiefs, Brocco, who's the host, Spencer Murray of the NBL Blitz. His team shows a lot of potential, man. They just have to get a little more right on offense to really be a threat.
I think in this division, you've got a really good Broncos team, a really good Chargers owner and team, a really good Raiders owner and team. The Chiefs, I think the ownership's there. The only thing I think they need to do to be competitive in this division is get some linemen, because we all know the issues rushing the football that they had this year. Jamal Charles was there, he wasn't there, who knows. They tried a bunch of different guys, there wasn't really anything there. So they get the running game figured out. I think they're going to be right in the mix for the division with the rest of the teams.
Yeah, health was a huge concern for the Chiefs. Moving on to the NFC East, dominated by the Dallas Cowboys, and DK finished 14-2. Redskins ended up 6-10, while the Eagles were 7-9, lost a real close one. I believe it was 16-13 versus the Cowboys in Week 17, where both teams rested their starting offensive players. And the Giants finished 7-9. Another really close division where if you just swing a couple games in somebody's favor, it could really open up a wild card possibility for those bottom 3 teams right there. Going to be a real close race moving forward for both teams. I like what the Eagles do on defense. Their offense seems to be coming together. Giants have a stellar defense, and he's figuring out the pieces. Eli Manning didn't have one of his best seasons, and I expect the Redskins to continue to grow with the players they have on the offensive and the defensive end, man. Their secondary is not that bad. NFC North moving on to that division, which is my division, Lipp. Lions finished 16-0. The Packers played the Lions in Week 17, ended their playoff wildcard hopes to 9-7, which allowed the Vikings at 10-6 to get in. The Bears still finding their way with Cutler, who he promised would be the starting quarterback as long as he wants to play. Any thoughts on that real quick, Lipp?
I think that there's just a good relationship there. I think that there's no question who the guy is. I just think it's some other areas that need to be fixed up. You want a quarterback, they believe in him, and I respect him for staying with Cutler.
Yeah, Draco is known for having one of the best defenses in NBL history, but man, his personnel choices at the quarterback position are questionable, with saying he's going to keep Cutler until he doesn't want to play anymore. So we're moving on to the NFC South. We got the Atlanta Falcons dominating again for their 8th division title in a row, and the Lions had 8 in a row as well. I forgot to mention that, not to plug myself, no homo. Falcons finished 13-3. You had the Saints finish 6-10. The Panthers finished 5-11. Buccaneers 2-14. Really, a lot of work needs to be done by these bottom 3 teams, but they showed something. They showed some potential last season. Especially the Buccaneers might be the best 2-14 team I've seen in the NBL.
Yeah, they've had a lot of close games. They've got a lot of great pieces. I think just a little off-season work, figure out some things, they'll be right in the hunt to go after them Falcons.
That is definitely correct. And now we're moving on to another crazy division. The Seahawks lost in Week 17. They fell to 11-5, so they didn't shore up the division. I believe they split during the season with the Cardinals, who are 10-5. They're going to be playing later tonight, and if they win, it's going to be a tie. And who gets in? Seahawks, Cardinals, could be a coin flip. I believe the Cardinals have the division record. Lipp, any confirmation on that? No, the Cardinals are 4-1 in the division right now. The Seahawks are 4-2. The Cardinals play a division opponent tonight, which is the Rams. They beat the Rams, they're in. They lose to the Rams, they're going to be out because they're going to have 6 losses now, and Seahawks are going to be in. So Cardinals got to win tonight to win the division. Both owners looking for their first division win, Lipp. This is huge for them.
Yeah, I think that the Cardinals are in the playoffs as well as the Vikings. I think that the people have been talking, and those teams are in the playoffs. It's just a matter of seeding between the Cardinals, the Seahawks now with this division coming down. But, great season by both guys, and congratulate both of them on such a great season.
Also, big shout out to the Rams, man. They got up to a slow start, but I really think Jay Moon's going to turn that franchise around. As everybody knows, the Jay Moon won NBL Super Bowl 18 with the New England Patriots in Madden 16. So I think that guy has a lot of potential for improving that Los Angeles Rams team thus far, starting with that young rookie quarterback with Jared Goff. And that's our rundown for the league. We just ran down the whole league in a handful of minutes. Man, I hope you guys enjoyed it. We're going to be moving on to our final segment next, so stay tuned because this is the segment where I'm going out on a limb and I'm promising who's going to win the NBL Super Bowl for season 19. What if I told you there is a veteran in the NBL for 14 seasons who's about to break the longest playoff drought in NBL history, the longest going today? This season. What if I told you that, Lipp? What if I told you going into this, Delvar is going to win his division, make the playoffs, and win the Super Bowl? What would you have called me?
I don't know. I think crazy might be the word, but that's calling out Delvar.
That's an understatement. Crazy is probably an understatement, but I'm going out on a ledge here, and I'm going to say, Delvar, you are going to be the NBL Season 19 Super Bowl champion. I've already got your address already. We're already prepping to send you that Super Bowl trophy. You want to know why? Because I am T. In Marshall, we trust. So, guys, think about this. Brandon Marshall's going to be a Super Bowl champion. And guess what? This is going to be the first Super Bowl run where you see two quarterbacks, both healthy, play throughout the playoffs. I guarantee Fitzpatrick is going in as a quarterback, and Geno Smith is coming out as their starting quarterback in the Super Bowl. He's going to win them the Super Bowl championship. They're going to beat David, and they're going to beat Goliath. They're going to knock off the Steelers. They're going to beat the Bengals if they have to. They're going to beat the Chargers if they have to. This team is not going to be stopped. They got the leadership of Matt Forte. They got the receiving core of Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker, and they got this one X factor that everybody's overlooking, the 6'3", 190-pound kid out of Temple. He's a rookie. His name is Robbie Anderson. This guy's a straight-up stud. The guy has over 635 yards this year with 4 touchdowns, and I expect him to drop 4 more touchdowns during this playoff run. Lipp, what are your thoughts on Delvar's destiny? That's what we're calling this segment because he finally made the playoffs, and this is his destiny. Not to make the playoffs. It was never to make the playoffs. It's to win the Super Bowl.
You know, for a very, very long time, Delvar had always said that he was just saving up for that one time, that one run, and it's here. He did the work. He practiced. He got his team ready. And they won the division, and now they're going into the playoffs. I would love to see it, man. For a guy to build a team for so long and put time into it, and it's his team, he loves his team. I would love to see Delvar go and win a Super Bowl with this team right now.
And I'm calling it right now. So if I'm right, man, they're gonna call me Nostradamus before this is all over with if Delvar wins this Super Bowl. And I gotta say, the defensive X factor. So I said the offensive X factor, Robbie Anderson, right? The defensive X factor, he's 5'9", 185. You're like, who is he? Buster Screen. This guy's a machine. He had 9 interceptions this year. And trust me, I've played against this kid. He's aggressive to the ball. He's probably going to pick off. He's probably going to have 5 touchdowns before this playoff run is over. And he's going to carry Revis to this Super Bowl that Revis won so bad. And the New York Jets are going to be the NBL Season 19 Super Bowl champions. And for me, Bomber and Lipp, y'all can book it. And we'll see you next time on the Commissioner Corner podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at Bomber League and go ahead and give this video a like and a subscribe to our channel for all news and content from the Madden Bomber League.